So, as we sit here this morning, the tallest building in the world is under construction. It's been under construction for about a month now, and it is the Kingdom Tower in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and it rests on the banks of the Red Sea. Now, they're not done yet. This is an artist's conception of what the building will look like, but when it is finished, the tower will be 1 kilometer high, 3,260 feet, about 3 times the height of the Empire State Building. It's going to cost $1.25 billion to build, 80,000 tons of steel, 5.7 million square feet of concrete. It'll have a 5,000 car parking garage. If you want to take an elevator up to the top to get a better view, it'll take you 12 minutes. On the 157th floor, there will be an observation deck where you can go outside and enjoy a nice picnic lunch if you're not afraid of heights. And the architect who is building the tower makes no bones about what their purpose is in building it. He said, this tower symbolizes the kingdom, meaning the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as an important global business and cultural leader and demonstrates the strength and creative vision of the people. In other words, it is built to say, we are in charge. Now, we left Noah last week, and you may recall that God, like He'd done for Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, gave Noah a command. He said, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. And Noah's descendants spread abroad on the earth after the flood, and human beings were all one family. They were all one very big family, and they all spoke one language. And rather than migrating west, as Horace Greeley once said someone should do, they instead went to the east to a land called Shinar, also known as Babylon in modern-day Iraq. And it is here that Noah's very big family had a very big idea. Genesis 11, 3 through 4 says, they said to one another, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. And they said, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. Now, we may read this story, and at first glance, it doesn't sound like such a bad idea. Noah's family wanted to build a really big, tall building to do 3 things. First, with apologies to Led Zeppelin, they wanted to build a stairway to heaven. And with the stairway reaching all the way up into heaven, they could simply walk right up to God. And that's how they defined success. Who could possibly be against that? Second, they wanted to make a name for themselves. They wanted to establish their legacy in the world. They wanted to leave something for future generations to see and say, man, these people were really in charge. Again, this is sort of common practice for us, and not unlike the Kingdom Tower, named for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we put names on buildings all the time. There is the Trump Tower. There's the Trump Plaza, Trump International Hotel, the Trump Ocean Club, Trump World, just to name a few. But how many of us live on streets named for people? In seminary, every building on the campus was named for someone. I myself lived in the 120-year-old Hodge Hall. There's also the George Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, Grant Park. The Al Gore Jr. Bridge is outside of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We put people's names on everything. They wanted significance. Who could possibly be against that? Third, Noah's family wanted to stay together. They didn't want to be scattered over the whole of creation. They wanted to remain unified. And of course, this is something that all of us desperately prize. Community is paramount. Harmony, concord, peace is something we all strive for and we desire, maybe even above all else. They want community. Who could be against that? Success, significance, community. Every heart vibrates to that iron string. Who could possibly be against that? Well, someone was. God. God was against it. Genesis 11, verses 5 through 6, we hear the Lord came down to the city to see the tower which the children of man had built, and the Lord said, behold, they're one people, and they all have one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. And then the Lord proceeded to scatter all of Noah's family around the world and to confuse their speech so they all didn't speak the same language. And as a result, they couldn't finish the tower. They couldn't finish the city. And they just left it there half built. And the name of the place came to be called Babel, which in Hebrew means confused. Now, some might ask, well, just who is confused here? We all want success. We all want significance. We all want community. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're made for success. We're made for significance. We're made for community. And Jesus desperately wants to give it to us. I know a lot of you read the book Halftime. Bob Burford wrote in the book Halftime, he said, the stuff that stirs within the heart's holiest chamber is, I believe, a gift given to us all by the Creator. It's one way of expressing a conviction that human beings are more than machines or animals. It is a confession that we are spiritual beings with a purpose and a destiny. It's a divine reminder that we are miraculously and wonderfully made in the image of God. Psalm 37:4 makes it much simpler. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. The problem with Noah's family is that they pursued the delights of their heart without God. They built a life, they constructed a society that did not need God, that was dependent upon earthly things. They did not oppose God directly, like, say, killing your brother because you were jealous of him, or eating from the one tree which God told you not to eat from. They just made God irrelevant. They made Him a nice option. If that kind of thing is important to you, you can certainly believe in God. They said, we are in charge. It doesn't matter how great a life we build. It doesn't matter what kind of income we're able to generate, what kind of success we cultivate, family we're able to procreate, the house we accumulate, or honors we appropriate. It will never be enough as long as we believe we are in charge. A life constructed without God is a donut hole. It is a hollow existence encircling nothing. And in that vacuous nothing, everything that we built will be sucked. We are made to be with God, and He has made a covenant to be with us. And because He has a covenant with us, God will confuse, He will scatter, He will frustrate us without apology or remorse when we act like we are in charge. And He'll do it because He loves us. And the truth is that when we are scattered, when we are confused, when we are frustrated, and we realize that we are not in charge and that we need Him desperately, He'll give us the desires of our heart freely and abundantly. Well, how do we allow God to do that? How do we let God give us success, significance, and community? The first thing we have to do is we have to let Jesus serve us. We have to let Jesus serve us. Now, Noah's family thought they could build a tower way up into the heavens and make their way to God. They believed that they used the very best technology of the day. They used baked bricks and tar for mortar, that they could get all the way to heaven. They could make a place for themselves and simply walk right up to God and shake His hand. Now, we may say, what a bunch of silly, primitive people. What a bunch of country rubes they have living over there in Shinar. Don't you know you can't build a tower to heaven? Well, how much better are we? How much better are we? Now, we may not try to build a literal tower into the heavens and walk our way up to God, but we do try to earn our way to heaven. We try to secure our passage like we're buying a first-class plane ticket. We try to do enough good things, make enough of an impact, follow the law to heaven to earn our way to God. This is actually how most of us live. We are hardwired for works righteousness. We want that success, and we want it because we have earned it. I tried to do John Houseman there for a second. It didn't quite work out. Does anyone know who John Houseman is anymore? All right. But can we do it? Can we do it? Now, I'm not much of an NBA fan. I suffer for 2 sports teams. I can't suffer for any more. Make it 3 sports teams. But I've always been a big fan of LeBron James. When we lived in Ohio, I actually saw him play a high school game one Sunday afternoon. We canceled church that morning because of a 26-inch snowstorm, but it was not enough to stop me from getting to the basketball arena that afternoon. LeBron is regarded as one of the very best players to ever play the game. He'd won 2 straight titles before the Miami Heat lost to the Spurs in 5 games. LeBron's Miami Heat jersey is perhaps the best-selling shirt in the entire world. He's one of the most famous, if not the most famous person in the world. Last year, playing basketball, he earned $72 million. So I had my boys out practicing their jump shot all day long. And he's made hundreds of millions over the course of his life, and he seems like he's a very well-adjusted, nice guy. He has a wife and 2 kids and a baby on the way. Yet in talking about the NBA Finals last week and their pummeling, LeBron said, "I did not do enough." And now commentators are asking, well, what's next for LeBron James? What is he going to do? How is he going to rebuild his tarnished brand and redeem himself? Well, we can never do enough. We can never have enough success. We can never build that tower tall enough to meet Jesus. That is why Jesus works his way to us. That is why Jesus meets us where we are, wherever we may be. That is why, rather than seeking to do great things for God, to get to God, we must allow Jesus to serve us. John's Gospel teaches us that before Jesus went to the cross, he told the disciples many times, but a few hours before, he told them he'd be leaving and going away, and passionate, impetuous Peter immediately exclaimed, "Lord, where are you going?" And Jesus said, "Well, where I'm going, you cannot follow me." And Peter immediately replied, "Lord, I'll follow you anywhere. I will lay down my life for you." Do you hear the irony of that statement? I will save you, Jesus. And Jesus lovingly replied, "You'll lay down your life for me?" And I'm sure he was thinking, Peter, you have it wrong. In fact, you couldn't be more wrong than you are now. You have nothing I need, but I have everything you need because I'm going to give my life for you. You see, Peter thought the way we think that, well, we can just follow Jesus all the way to the heights of heaven. But in just a few hours, Peter would find out just how incapable he is to do it, how far short we always fall, because he would betray Jesus 3 times. He claimed 3 times he did not even know him. Now, was that the end for Peter? Did Jesus say, no, enough of him? No, Peter just found out what we all learn if we're blessed, that we can't work our way to Jesus, but Jesus will work his way to us. Not long after this exchange with Peter, Jesus promised. He said, "I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again. And I will take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also." You see, unless Jesus carries us to heaven, drags us into eternity, we're not going to get there. We're just not going to get there. Most of us, I think, know this. This is not new information for most of us, but we don't live it. We don't realize it. We don't know the pure joy that comes aside from laying aside our own ambition and success and trusting Jesus' ambition for us to have abundance. We hedge our bets. We trust Jesus sometimes with some things. Most of the time, we're just desperate to build that tower. Dietrich Bonhoeffer explained why this doesn't work. He said, Jesus was not nailed to the cross as an ornament or decoration for our lives. If we would have him, we must recognize he makes fundamental claims on our entire being. The religion of Christ is not the tidbit after the bread. It is the bread itself, or it is nothing. So if we want to know the joy and peace of Jesus coming to us, we must come to him with nothing. We must allow him to serve us. We must realize we can't stand on our own 2 feet anywhere at any time. We must allow him to serve our entire being. Not just the pieces and parts that cause us distress, or the pieces and parts we think are relevant or convenient. If we want to know Jesus' fullness, we will let him serve the fullness of our being. Second, we need to serve. We need to serve. See, Noah's family built the tower to make a great name for themselves. They made a lasting monument so that people for generation after generation could talk about their greatness. Anyone here ever thought about what you want your gravestone to say? What people will say at your funeral? Now, we don't want circumstances to lead us there, but you could say we are dying to know. Thanks for laughing at that. I appreciate that. We want to see our legacy extend beyond our days. We want to have an impact. We want to leave a mark. We want to have eternal significance. Why does a mom or dad lose it watching their son play t-ball or on the soccer field? Ever received a Christmas card letter that read more like an application to Harvard for their teenager? We want to see our kids succeed because it is our legacy. They are a part of us. In a sense, they are the most real part of us because they come from inside of us. And a lot of parents pursue that great name, their eternal significance, through their kids. Well, where does a great name come from? Where does it come from? In the very next chapter of Genesis, we learn that it is God alone who makes our name great and who gives us significance. God made a covenant with a man named Abram who was from a land called Haran. Genesis 12, verses 2 through 3. The Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I'll make of you a great nation, and I'll bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing." It is up to God to give us a great name. That is His choice. But we can be assured that if He gives us a great name, it is because we have left everything behind and followed Him. If we can be assured that if God gives us a great name, it is not so we might be served by the world, it is so we can serve the world, so that we can be a blessing to the world. Jesus said as much to His disciples, "The greatest among you will be a servant." So if we want to leave a legacy, and we all do, be a blessing. Be a servant. Leave it all behind. With your every act, with your every breath, every word, point to the one who is really in charge. Resist the urge to beat your chest. Proclaim your name. And point to the one who is greater. And third and finally, we need to serve as a vessel for the Holy Spirit. Noah's family tried to stay together. They desperately wanted to stay together. They didn't want to be scattered. They wanted community. They did not want to be dispersed over the whole of the earth. But not all communities are equal. Fritz Sauckel was Adolf Hitler's labor chief. As his labor chief, he was responsible for rounding up people to do slave labor in the Nazi factories and the Nazi camps. He personally was responsible for rounding up nearly 5 million people into slavery during World War II, Germans and non-Germans alike. And millions of those slave laborers died. Their average workday was 13 hours with only minimal food to eat, and some of them took to skinning mice to eat with bits of glass and metal and then cooking them on a stick over a fire. Fritz Sauckel was put on trial during the Nuremberg war trials, and he gave his life to Jesus before he was executed. And he told the American Army chaplain who ministered to him that he believed he had done his job as a Nazi without any idea of committing wrong against God or man. He'd simply be working toward what he called an ideal community, a community he dreamed of since his days as a seaman and a laborer. You see, he wanted what most of us want: community, an ideal community. All communities are not created equal. We like to think that for community, what we need are people and a common goal, and then community will happen. But we need the Holy Spirit to make community sustainable and pleasing and practical and transforming. It is no accident that the Bible records in Acts, at the birthday of the church, God's community, the Holy Spirit, descending upon Jerusalem. There were men there from every nation whose ancestors had been scattered by God across the green earth. And they all spoke different languages. But when the Holy Spirit descended on every one of them, they could understand the other. The Holy Spirit miraculously pulled them all together. So, can we find sustaining, pleasing, practical, transforming community in anything else besides Jesus Christ? Can we really ground a community in ethereal ideas like religion or diversity or love or freedom or country or family? What do those ideas even mean separated from the God who made them? What are the consequences of pursuing ideas rather than God? Friedrich Nietzsche famously said, God is dead. We have killed him. He was talking about Europe in the 19th century, and we all know how the 20th century went for Europe. There were 2 world wars, tens of millions killed, fascism, communism, cult of personality. A new term was coined to describe wholesale slaughter, genocide. We needed it because of Europe in the 20th century. It was the bloodiest century anywhere. In our country, we have not killed God. We still like God. We've just made him optional. Oh, he's a fine idea. If you're into that kind of thing, if that means something to you. We have built a tall tower. We have built a superpower tower. And we have individual tall towers too, with luxury and ease and privilege that the ancient kings would have dreamed about. And we have said in no uncertain terms, I am in charge. I am the captain of my destiny. I have freedom. We haven't killed God. We've made him into a wealthy uncle that we call on when we need something, when we get really desperate because things don't go our way. And we're seeing the unraveling of community now. People aren't as friendly. Tempers are frayed. We're scared of strangers. We don't let our kids out of our sight for a moment. We put cameras everywhere and alarms on everything. Our best conversations happen through a computer screen. And we're more segregated according to ideology and race and class and income and language than ever before. We're becoming a nation of tribes. Like Noah's family, we are scattered and confused and we're frustrated. And some believe that the key to turning this around is for the church to be more like the world, to relax our standards, to not be so dogmatic, to let go of some key teachings, to make what we believe a little more palatable to the skeptic, a little more acceptable to reasonable people. If we're just Santa Claus for a while, maybe people will like us, never saying no and always saying yes, and gradually by degrees we're claiming more and more authority from our rich uncle and his antiquated ideas about how to live our life. We think that we're going to build some great tower. It won't work. It won't work. We will be even more scattered, even more confused. But don't leave here this morning without hope. Because hope walks out the door with you. The world's best hope is living and active within you and me. You see, the world desperately needs the church to be a vessel for the Holy Spirit. As a church, we need to learn 5 simple words. I am not in charge. And we need to allow the Holy Spirit to take charge of us. And with the Holy Spirit, we can be the world-changing community of salt and light that Jesus intends for us to be, leaping across barriers of ideology and race and class and language and income, scattered no more, but gathered on our knees at the feet of Jesus to be sent out into a world that is crying out for him. God made you to be successful. God made you to be significant. God made you to know community. But most of all, above anything else, he made you to be with him.